McNamara talked about this during the Cold War. During the fog of war, he was actually asked the same question, and I think everybody has to decide how much evil is required to do good, whether it's something as minute as lying to somebody and telling them they look good just so you don't tear them down for the rest of the day, the week, their life. It's an evil thing to lie, but to tell them the truth, it could devastate them. You never know. Now granted, typically it's not on such a small scale when you're trying to figure this out. If you look at comic books, each superhuman has a different set of moral guidelines, and how they have only so much evil that somebody can do before they have to face the wrath, face punishment, and each one isn't individually based, as I think it should be in the real world as well. There's only so much that people can take, but there's no clear, concise line that says this is how much evil we can have before you have to stop, before it's no good. In all the comic books, though, I think one of the key things that separates a superhuman from a normal human, and the reason why they're able to save the day, is because a superhuman is able to get their hands dirty, where most average, everyday people will not. So, once again, I think the individual has to decide how much evil is really acceptable to do good. I think passion has everything to do with being a superhero. If you're not passionate about being a superhero, you aren't a superhero. You're just a weird person that decides to dress up and roam about the city and do it whatever you please. Whereas if you are passionate about something, if you're passionate about vengeance, if you're passionate about making sure people don't have to go through the things that you did, if you're passionate about just saving the world, making the world a better place, that makes you much more of a superhero. You can't be a superhero without passion. It just doesn't happen. No one would be willing to go through the ordeals of being a superhero, the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the othering, all of those aspects of being a superhero. No one would be willing to put themselves through it unless they were passionate about making a difference in the world. And that's what it is. You have to be passionate.
Passion can be the driving force of reaching goals. It can help us succeed in our everyday life, and sometimes help us become a better person. However, it can become too much of a good thing. For instance, when passion has no reason, or when it is driven under false pretenses. If someone is trying to do something for a good that doesn't exist, it will not be a good thing. This is terrible. This will end in the person's ultimate goal being skewed and possibly make things worse. Also, if someone defines himself by some passion they have, they will lose some essentials of life. For example, a husband will have a rough marriage if he is too passionate about his work, and he will lose his family that way. Passion can be the driving force of reaching goals. It can help us succeed in our everyday lives and sometimes help us become a better person. However, it can become too much of a good thing. For example, in the Green Lantern Brothers Keeper, the Green Lantern gets really angry and upset that one of his friends is attacked, and he gains this passion of just gaining revenge on these people that attacked him, and he finds one of them in jail, and he just snaps their wrist trying to get information out of them to find the other two people. And that, for example, is just too much passion. So if someone is trying to do something for a good that doesn't exist, it will not be a good thing. This will end in the person's ultimate goal being skewed and possibly make things worse. Their morals are just flying everywhere once they're upset and have too much passion for something. Vengeance is usually never justified under a good cause. It usually occurs when people overreact to something small and then take it way too far. But it can be justified in certain cases, for example, modern day justice. If someone murders someone else, then they have stepped outside the social contract, and justice will put them in jail and maybe possibly put them under the death sentence. Because since he or she has broken the law by killing someone, justice will in a sense gain its vengeance by killing him or her because him or her, or he or she killed somebody herself or himself. That's so awesome. Anyway.
Him or her. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Another example of, in my opinion, justified vengeance is the movie Kill Bill. The bride gains her vengeance on those that tried to kill her on her wedding day. These people, called the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad, they came into the chapel, wrecked the place, and then shot her in the head. They put her into a coma. She didn't die, but she was unconscious for 4 years. She woke up. She was previously pregnant. She wasn't pregnant anymore, obviously, but she thought that her baby had died. So, needless to say, a mother would be upset by that, so she gains her vengeance. So, in conclusion, vengeance is justified as long as you don't take it too far. When someone breaks the law by killing or seriously harming someone else, that someone has willingly stepped outside this social contract by breaking the law. They are no longer set to live under a normal set of rules and will be treated as such. They have stepped outside the group and they are no longer one of them, and they don't have to be treated by the same set of rules. Anyone can do anything to them and no one will care because they're outside of the group. For example, in the US, it would be by way of a prison sentence. So given that, it may be said that vengeance can only be justified on those that are outside the social contract. I believe that it is much easier to be remembered for an act of evil. If you know of Shaka the chieftain, he remembered every person that had ever done harm to him during his childhood, and he gained his vengeance on them. It just seems that you are able to remember the bad things a lot easier than the good, especially if directed specifically toward yourself or social contract group. For example, 9/11, everyone remembers where they were and exactly what they were doing at the time that they heard of the attacks. It was just such a big blow and a horrible thing that how could you forget about it? However, almost no one will remember the person's face that helped pick up your books and papers when you drop them on your way to class. Also, the people that do what you could consider extreme goods for you are usually close friends. So it's almost to be expected you would do for your friends what they would do for you. Both friends help each other. So evil is probably much more memorable because it disrupts the regular order of things. This can be easily answered by taking it to an extreme. If person X cuts you off in traffic, then flips you off, you will be angry with person X, but will probably forget about it the next day. However, if person X decides to murder one of your family members, you will never forget that person's face or the reason why you remember them. So given that, it is the act that makes them memorable. Nobody wants to be a nobody. Everyone wants purpose. Everyone wants to influence things in their own special ways so that they will be remembered. If someone never did anything memorable, they will eventually die and be buried in a grave that will never be visited or have flowers put next to it. And I mean, who wants that? Nobody wants to be a nobody.